Doctors and nurses who deliver babies, what are some strange or funny things that people have screamed while giving birth? Viewers edition. This one is going to be pretty interesting for me. I'm a new father. My son was born just about 2 weeks ago, and my wife did not scream or say anything funny while she was giving birth, so I'll be interested to see what people have to say. It was actually calmer than I thought it should be, as is depicted in the movies and shows. But we'll see what the internet says. So with that, let's get on to story number 1. Story 1. I don't know how my birth went, but I was my mother's third of 4 children. The first being born at 18, then 20, then 25, then 27. She had us all pretty young, and I think only my little brother and I share the same dad. Anyways, some things I found weird about my body that might be because of a weird birth or just idiotic childhood or something else. You can tell me. I have a dent in my skull that starts just above my right ear and makes a headband shape to the top of my head, where it stops and continues near the base of my skull. I'm very, very, very prone to respiratory issues. I apparently had to have a breathing mask as a toddler and still need an inhaler sometimes today, but I don't have asthma. One side of my chest has thinner, more elastic skin, meaning I can see some weird veins and a webbing of thicker skin or fat underneath the skin. Some doctors in the past who checked that tried to assume I had breast cancer, but I don't. I have 2 round bumps on my ankles, one where they usually are, and the other on my foot near where 2 bones intersect. I can turn both my feet into perfect L's on command, without manipulation beyond my muscles in that area. I'm either psychic or have really bad deja vu. I don't have adult teeth to replace some baby teeth, so I have to either move my extra teeth around or just keep clearing away rot and hoping the original tooth still remains by the time I'm 30. That's about it, I think. Story 2. The one good experience I had when giving birth was the nurse who comforted me. My experience was mostly awful and traumatizing. I was in a car accident and waited a week in labor. When I refused to dilate, it meant I had to have a C-section. I was terrified and alone. Husband was 4 hours away, and it was during COVID, so getting visitors was hard as it was. I remember saying to a nurse that I was scared and wasn't sure what to do. Mother passed when I was only 15, and so I really didn't understand the whole making and having babies things, to be embarrassingly honest. When they brought me to the C-section room, a nurse came in and she held my hand the whole time. Told me what a good job I was doing, reminded me that I was safe, and that I could do things however I wished. She gave me back the control I felt I was losing in that moment, and made me feel safe. It's the one moment, aside from having my son, that stuck with me from that day. You are strong, you are beautiful, you are safe. Whoever she was, I thank her each day for being the mother I didn't have for a moment. Story 3. A friend of mine told me this, not the mother, but the father. When her mom was pregnant with her, her older brother had kicked her really hard in the stomach. He was like 2 at the time. It caused a partial placental detachment. One day, while her mom was on bed rest, she tried to take a bath. Ended up getting into labor. Her father was at work. Long story short, she calls him and tells him she's giving birth in the tub. Her father rushed to help, while her brother was in the living room listening to screams. Her father was very disturbed whenever he saw blood. But the ambulance was on its way, and the baby was coming now. My friend was literally born in a bloodbath, her hemophobic father delivering her. Mom passes out as the ambulance arrives. At the hospital, her father jumps out of the ambulance. His brother, who was meeting them there, happened to see him. Dad finds the nearest bush and pukes in it. 2 or 3 times. His brother starts laughing, and he looks up at him, wipes his mouth, and holds eye contact as he says, "It's a girl." My friend loves this story, and they never let her dad live it down. Story 4. My mother gave birth without much of a hustle. According to her, it wasn't as painful as expected. After I popped out and the docs were taking me to the sink to give me a clean, my mother goes, Hey, where are you taking him?" The doc tells her, "Well, we gotta clean him before taking him to the cradle." And she goes, "Let me see him." "What? But, ma'am, he's still dirty." "Let me see him." "Okay, but I delivered him and I'm keeping him. You ain't gonna mix my son up." Apparently in the hospital I was born at in the 90s and 2000s, it was common for newborns to get mixed up and get raised by different people instead. Proof: my mother squared me in the first 10 seconds. She looked at me, came later when I developed the exact same face of my father. Usually you're supposed to take a bit from both parents, but for some reason my father's family genes are pretty strong. Me, my father, my grandpa, and all the older generations we have pics of all look the same, just with different styles of mustache. Especially mustaches on a baby. Story 5. When a close friend to the family was giving birth, she would punch her husband in the gut every time she had a contraction. She practiced kickboxing, Muay Thai, and a few other martial art techniques, so she was freakishly strong, but is a very sweet, gentle, and sensitive woman. When the baby came out, she asked him in tears, "Why did you keep slapping my hand away? I needed something to hold." Apparently, every time she had a contraction, she would reach for her husband to hold his hand, but giving birth must obscure the vision, and the pain made her muscles spasm, resulting in the poor guy getting his poop rocked with every contraction. By the end of it all, the family got the girl they wanted, and Dad had a bruised abdomen. To this day, the husband would hold his stomach and make a very over-exaggerated scream. Think of a 6'6" man screaming like a 4-year-old girl in fear of her life every time she gets a cramp. Every one of us still gives them both heck for that day, too. Story 6. My birth story. My dad was taking my sister to my grandparents when my mom called him and told him I was on my way. He came home fast and got the bags, and my mom told him not to run. She thought it would take half a day for me to be born like my sister. Halfway to the hospital, she was like, "Run." So my dad sped down the road, passing through red lights, while my mom was trying not to give birth in the car. They arrived at the hospital and the doc wasn't there, so they had to wait for 2 hours for someone qualified enough to come and help. Then they wanted to push. My mom said, "Okay," gives a push, and the doc catches me in midair. Also, I was red with nails and black hair, and the first thing my mom told me was, "My God, you look like a goblin." Story 7. My mom went into labor for 4 days before I was born, so that meant that she was very angry by the last day and a half or so, because she wanted me out. And because of the extreme pressure on her back and tailbone when she'd sit up, she asked for a donut to sit on, those blow-up donut things that people sit on. If you know, then you know. And a male doctor walked in after half an hour and tried to just talk with her while sitting up the donut, saying stuff like, "Hurt that bad?" or something like that. Not trying to be rude, but still, my mom was very angry at that point, because she just wanted to be done. So she said, "You ever birthed kids?" "No, but I've seen it." "Then shut the frick up and give me my donut." My grandma has never let her live it down. Story 8. So when I was born, my dad got asked if he wanted to cut the umbilical cord, and he said yes, and he told me that it was like chopping a piece of meat. It always makes me laugh, and I'm the oldest sibling. When my brother was born, there was this girl who came to our house, and these people usually give people numbing shots so they don't feel the pain. And there's a certain amount of time that you can do it before you just can't do it anymore. And this girl didn't believe in the numbing shot, so she got really late. And when my mom asked for the numbing shot, she was like, "No, too late." And when my mom went to the hospital, the nurses were like all over my brother because they didn't really get much babies there. And they were like hogging my brother, feeding him and everything. Story 9. I was in the wrong position in the uterus, and the doctors tried as hard as they could to reposition me. The positioning of myself caused me to go into distress when my mom started contracting. She said she went to take a bath in hot water to ease the pregnancy pains, and her water broke. She was planning on being in a water birth in the hospital. My dad rushed her to the hospital, and she was told she needed a C-section, and it was from the baby's coming 10 minutes later, "We're cutting you open." She got the C-section, but the thought scares the heck out of me. Getting heavily numbed and then cut open, but you can't see? But your uterus is cut open. I survived, and after a bit in the NICU for breathing issues, I was able to go home healthy. Story 10. As a nurse who helps deliver babies, I can confirm that women scream the craziest things in labor. I only started training to help deliver babies 6 years ago, and ever since then I've been helping deliver babies. I remember the first time I had ever helped deliver a baby, the woman screamed, "I need to poo." Her husband starts shushing her and saying, "Honey, don't scream." And so the woman yells back, "I can do whatever I want, Chris. You're being mean to me." She starts standing up and water starts going everywhere. She literally, with full force, jumps face over of the nursing bed, making her nose bleed. We had to clean that up. The rest was not so easy. It's not easy delivering a baby from a screaming woman who's trying to escape. Story 11. The story of my birth. So my mom and dad thought that she was having me, so they went to the hospital. Turns out I wasn't ready. So anyway, my mom can't have a bite of food, but my dad gets a whole menu and orders this weird, smelly burrito thingy, which he eats right in front of my starving mom. The next morning, I'm actually coming. The doctors didn't think I'd come then, so he came in wearing tennis shorts and a shirt. I came out so fast, my mom didn't get any injections at all. Oh, and I play tennis, so maybe it's because the doctor was playing tennis. Like, maybe 10 minutes before I was born. Story 12. My mother never knew my gender, so when I was born, the doctor asked her, "Do you want a boy or a girl, ma'am?" My mom was like, "Anything that God gives me, sir." But the doctor said, "Just choose." You see, one of the reasons behind my existence is that my brother wanted a younger brother, but my mother wanted a daughter, so she replied, "I want a girl." And then the doctor held me in the sky saying, "Here's our princess." No joke, my mom tells me to this day that I am more of a boy than a girl, but I am proud of how I was born and of being a girl. Story 13. I know I was when she told me to, but here's a little clarification. When they came to know my gender, they found out that the position I was in didn't allow them to do so. My hands were on my face and my body was on side that couldn't afford them to know. That's why my gender was a mystery to the family. I asked my mother countless times to have a younger brother. The poor fella ended up with 2 younger sisters. The doctor that gave birth to me was a funny guy, so when he found out I was a girl, he asked my mom those questions. Story 14. When my sister was giving birth, they put her on drugs, and I was in the delivery room, and she had pulled me close and said, "I swear to God I will use the umbilical cord to whip every doctor in this hospital if that baby is ugly." She had a beautiful baby girl, like not just saying because she was a baby, like she was like a model baby. And she was still a little woozy after pregnancy and looked at her baby and said, I guess she looks like a single. Wait a minute, did I give birth to Ariana La? And then sings Bad Romance by Lady Gaga. Story 15. My dad, when my brother and I were born, the doctor asked him if he wanted to cut the umbilical cord. My dad, being all grossed out, said, "Oh, that's why I hired you to do it," or something along those lines. Gets me every time. In a similar note, he had no longer deals with bodily waste because he was traumatized when I was going pee in a baby bathroom chair and I defecated, pooped, at the same time as I was peeing. The poo fell on the ground, pee in the toilet. I think I would have the same reaction as him. Story 16. When my mother went into labor with me, she asked the doctor for pain medication and stuff like that. But the doctor did a quick look and he saw that the umbilical cord was tied around my neck and said, "Oh no, I'm sorry ma'am, but this baby needs to come out right now." And my mom asked why, and the second she heard that, she started pushing and pushing. "No, stop." And the doctor was all like, "Slow down." And my mother was like, "Frick no," and I made her bleed so much. Also, hi Dr. Stevenson, it's me, Willow V. Story 17. Neither a doctor nor a parent, but one day in summer, my family was invited to do a little barbecue. We also got to meet the son of the host and his wife, who was 8 months pregnant with their first child. So, of course, at some point we started talking about the upcoming birth. My mother said to the guy, she might say some mean things during birth, but she doesn't mean it. My sister, who already had her first child, interrupted with a dead serious face, "No, she's gonna mean every single word." Story 18. Okay, then let's play 2 truths, 1 lie to calm you, okay? Okay, I cheated on you, I was the one who broke your Lamborghini, and I love Fortnite. Well, obviously you didn't cheat on me, so... Ha ha ha, wrong. Too easy, guys. Honey, that's not okay. You cheated on me? Wait, actually, I did that one wrong. Ma'am, your surgery is done. All of them were truths. Ah, crap. No. You know, I really love this game, honey. Stop. And that was the reason why I was adopted. Story 19. I has given birth to a little boy. They had to use scissors to cut me open when I had been given a blockade and the pain wasn't really there, and sometime after one of the machines starts beeping and I say, "I play music." My mom, sister, and boyfriend laughs, some time pass, and the head is peeking through, but he keeps on slipping up in my cooter again, and I yell, "Have you pushed him up again?" Sorry for bad English. Story 20. I actually broke my mom's tailbone when I was born. Apparently I was born sunny side up, as we like to call it, which I'm told isn't very common. So the nurse asked my mom if it would be okay if some trainees came in and watched. My mother, who wasn't on any pain meds, kinda just yelled some gibberish that the nurse took as consent. Was kind of awkward for my dad, though, having an entire group of people watching my mom give birth. Story 21. Not a medical professional, but when I gave birth, I was doing both my New York City alphabet, freaking A, freaking B, and so forth, as well as my 6-word area. I'll just put the first letter and contractions. As for my man, I was squeezing his hand during the contractions. Found out later, even though I thought I didn't have the strong of a grip, that his hand became numb for a while, and still was numb for a while after the delivery. Story 22. When my mum was having me, she wasn't enough centimeters dilated, and she couldn't get an epidural because it would complicate the birth, so she was obviously in pain. So, first of all, she tried to jump off the bed and run out of the room in the middle of pushing, and then she screamed, "If you don't get this baby out of me right now, I will reach my hands up there and pull her out myself." 18 hours later, I was born. Story 23. I was an emergency C-section, and whilst my mom was under, but still awake, she was laughing at my dad because the cap they gave him was too small for his big head. Well, forehead. I'm lucky that I look more like my mom's side than my dad's, but my sister looks like my dad. By the way, I'm 34, 35 in January, whilst my sister is 33, 34 in August. There's an 18-month gap between us. Story 24. When I was born, my mom's doctor, a male, kept saying, "Push, push harder." Eventually, my mom had enough and screamed, "If you keep saying push, I'll give you a baby. I'll tell you to push. Try being a woman." This next part is according to my dad. Apparently, the roster turned really red, and all the nurses in the room broke down in hysterical laughter. Doubt they'll forget that one. Story 25. When my sister was born, my mom simply screamed, "I hated football, Dan. I just pretended to like it to keep you on the couch." And my dad just stared at her with a huge butt eyes and whispered, "I thought you liked football." And my older brother and me just looked at each other and scooted to the back of the room, trying not to burst out laughing. Story 26. I have one, so I'm a doctor, and this group of a white Aboriginal family like me came in, and the mother screamed when the kid's hair was blue. She yelled, "I want the kid's hair blonde." And the second kid's hair was brown and smelled. She screamed. I said, "Oh, that's just its poop." She yelled, "What the heck, you baby?" I said, "That's it, I'm done." Story 27. Apparently one of my mom's nurses, these were her coworkers too, she was a secretary in the same hospital, kept trying to put an oxygen mask or something over her mouth. My mom was throwing up, so she grabbed it and shoved it on the nurse's face. She didn't say anything, she just incoherently screamed at her, then went back to the birthing business. Story 28. Oh, heck no. To all the men out there, you do not stop for gas while your wife is in labor. It's marriage/father-to-be rule number 1. You get straight to that hospital no matter what. If I was that wife, I would have never forgiven him, divorce, or at minimum never let him live it down for the rest of his life. Story 29. During my 5th birth, 3rd home birth, my best friend and sister-in-law were both present. Both had 2 C-sections, no vaginal births, and were quietly discussing their experiences, to the annoyance of my midwives. When I heard the phrase, "I don't know how she's going to do this," I replied, "Out my vagina, I imagine," and that was the end of that conversation. Story 30. I was a birth supporter for a friend of mine. She screamed at us to get the phone book off my stomach repeatedly. After the birth of her daughter, someone asked her what the baby's name was, and still on drugs, she said, "Phone book." Everyone cracked up, and a nurse said, "Oh, that's okay, honey. We'll ask you again later." Story 31. The doctors told my parents I had a chance of having a cleft lip, and when my parents told my brother and asked him how they would deal with that, he said, "We'll send her back." To this day, he's embarrassed when he hears that story. No, I don't have a cleft lip, if you're wondering. Born without any abnormalities. Story 32. When I was born, I was the second kid for my mom. He was pretty much just a normal, uneventful birth. But me, oh, me, I had the umbilical cord tied around my neck in a perfectly done knot 5 times, was upside down and backward, and was being watched by over 10 medical students. I was a C-section, to be sure. Story 33. Second baby born, au naturel, and I was totally bipolar. "Mom, can you come here? Get the frick away from me. I'm really hot." Mom starts rubbing face with a cool washcloth. "Quit freaking touching me." Yeah, needless to say, Mom was very confused, and I apologized like a billion times once it was finally over. Story 34. I hope that I didn't curse during my labor pains on my first and second child before my C-sections. I don't remember saying bad words, but I do remember the pains. They tried VBAC in my second child, but that didn't work out. Love the introduction picture. So cute. My babies were so cute. Story 35. Paramedic here. Another crew was transporting a woman in labor from a freestanding ER to a hospital with labor and delivery. They made it about 3/4 of the way when the time came. They pulled into a Taco Bell parking lot. Afterwards, the mother joked if she needed to name it after something on the menu. Story 36. I was delivering a woman's child, and she couldn't take any pain medication because of a medical condition of hers. In the middle of the labor, she yelled, "Can't you just put it back in and take it out another day?" The whole team was laughing so hard we almost broke the sterile field. Story 37. Holy heck, wait, my little brother shot out of my mom like a football. I'm not even joking, we make fun of it every day, 'cause he's obsessed with flying now. By the way, he wasn't injured. The doctors caught him, but there was blood everywhere 'cause the umbilical cord broke. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.